Welcome to another wonderful episode of Toot Your Own Horn Music Matters. I'm here with the one and only Sharon Deuby. Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I am very good. I am so happy that you said yes to participating in this episode, and I can't wait for you to share your story.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm ready to go.
Awesome. How did the clarinet find you?
Um, the clarinet found me because fourth grade, I think, we had the opportunity at my elementary school to have our band directors come and show instruments. And I really kind of said I wanted to play the marimba. And I did not know what a marimba was. I just kind of liked the name of it. And, um, and the directors showed me all these different things, and they're like, "We think you'd be pretty good at clarinet." And my sister was playing clarinet, and she did not like it, and she didn't ever practice it, but I could pick it up and play it, so that's sort of how I became a clarinetist.
So you said, okay, I'll just do what you want me to do.
Yeah, and I think they said, "Yeah, kind of have a good face for it," or something. I really don't remember. But I will share, I have a little prop in the background, and we will share that back in the day. So we got to play in the band in 5th grade, and we got kind of bussed over there. And my parents knew nothing about instruments. I don't know how well they were advised on what to get for me, but I started out on something like this.
Oh,
In my whole 5th grade year, I carried this long box on the bus, and it was a metal clarinet, don't ask me what. This particular one was given to me by one of my friends in the Dallas Winds who has since passed away, so it's very precious, and it's missing lots of keys and pads, and it really needs some love, but, it's just precious. But that was my whole 1st year, and then, got into 6th grade where we really had more, I think, band every day and, on the real band. So my parents at that point got me a wood clarinet, and I still have it. I think it's a Normandy 7. And, so played that for many years until I got into high school.
and did you love your section and you loved your band director? And what made you keep going?
Well, I started, paying attention more to practicing in 6th grade, and they always put up those little charts for you of your scale tests and your chair tests and so on. And then it finally started dawning on me that, hey, if I practice, I get better. And I did start practicing a little more when I was in junior high. And then I got into high school, and we had a very wonderful band program. There was no orchestra for us. My home is outside of Niagara Falls, New York, and kind of a rural-ish area, but we had folks come in from all over Niagara County. And so we had a great band program. And that year, my band director was taking the band, and I made it into the wind ensemble as a freshman. And that was a big deal for me because, I hadn't been that high up in my chair in the other band, in 8th grade, but made it into the top band. And yeah, we were going to go to the Midwest Conference. And on that trip, and our soloist was Debbie Hodacki.
Wow.
So she was a senior when I was a freshman, and of course, brilliant. And hello, Debbie, if you ever watch this, and I will send it to you so I can tell you that in person. But Debbie was playing the finale from the Violin Concerto by Tchaikovsky with a clarinet choir, and that was on our program, and she played the dickens out of it and sounded so beautiful. And, of course, she was our section leader, and, I did a few lessons with her when I was in 9th grade, and then I went on to Alan Siegel after that, for through high school. But, Debbie was so inspirational with her gorgeous sound and her technique, and, it was so cool to have her there and just be this, like, "Oh, man, I wanna do that," experience. So, yeah, so I just kept practicing and playing, and we only went to the Midwest Conference once, but we got to do these other wonderful trips. We got to go with a band and choir, went my sophomore year to, England, Scotland, and France.
Oh,
And, so we did these for a small community. They were, very supportive. We had to raise money to make our trips happen. We sold, Tom Watt products, and I remember going around my neighborhood, and this mind you, this is in, Western New York in the wintertime, walking because there's no public transportation and you could not ride bikes in the winter, so I walked all over the place with my little box of things to sell for band so I could raise money to do our trips. And those were eye-opening for us, going to Philadelphia was one trip, but that big trip to Europe was huge for us, and we got to play all over, those countries and do little concerts everywhere. Um, so that band program was just really the thing that helped me keep going and was inspirational. I was very lucky to go to Allstate my senior year, and I had Laura Ardan for my roommate. 'Cause she grew up in that area too, and she went on to such great things, so hi, Laura. So, yeah, so then I went on to college and, I did my undergrad at, SUNY Potsdam, Crane School of Music, and, did a K through 12 education, but with a concentration in special ed. So, I did some of my student teaching. Half of it was in straight band programs, and then the other half was in schools for special kids, um, severely mentally retarded children and emotionally disturbed. Um, and then after that, college, and I, participated in every performance thing that I could do and, became an educator too. And then went to Michigan State after that to study with Elsa Roder and Fred Ormond over at Michigan State. And then came down to Texas where I am now. So,
wow. Was it ever a thought you weren't gonna be in music?
yeah, only after getting down here and not having any connections because I didn't go to school here. And I studied with 𝐓𝐸 𝐘𝐨𝐮𝐫 for a little bit down here, but it's very difficult to move to a different community and break into the scene when you don't know anybody and you don't have any local connections. So there was a time where I really wasn't getting much work, and it was just you know very difficult to motivate yourself to keep going. So there's a short time that I just went. Gee, maybe it's start time to start looking for other things because I didn't really have money to go audition, and I think my husband and I were together, and his work was here that he didn't wanna leave, and, so it was that, now what do you do? Um, so, yeah, so I did have a time where my day job was doing arts administration, but I still played and taught on the side. So I did that for about 7 years, and then I got back into teaching more, and then, Dallas Winds by that time was up and going, so that was a regular thing, and then I became principal for East Texas Symphony and Wichita Falls Symphony, and, and that other, program that I was telling you about, the outreach group for Texas Winds Musical Outreach. So these things I'll just keep layering on, and, so I'm very fortunate to teach over at Dallas College as well, and, I have a private studio and do, clinics or master classes. So that's, kind of all that combination, but it takes such a long time to get that all put together and, to, be essentially still freelance, but with your special groups that you're the member of, but you have your freelance work on top of that too. So, uh,
And yet that concern came much later for you because the decision to keep going and major in music seems like it was sort of a foregone conclusion.
yeah, I think by probably at least by sophomore year, I would say that it was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. And I didn't really know other than I knew I wanted to keep performing. I knew that I liked teaching because I was teaching in high school a little bit too, but, kind of young kids, but that and just trying to figure out what's the best combination for you to do that. And I will say I didn't really understand what it took to I always wanted to be in an orchestra. There weren't really any professional wind bands like there are now. Well, and Dallas Winds is a professional ensemble. And even when we started, it was not a paying job. You did it because you wanted to do it. And it took us, like about 5 years of getting paid occasionally and just keep doing it because we wanted the group to keep growing, and it did, and we're very fortunate 40 years later that it still is, and it's, brilliant group, but back then, yeah, you could audition for orchestras, and honestly, Lisa, I did not really understand what that process was. I didn't. I finally started getting inkling of that as I got into graduate school, and I was in a performance master's program, and finally getting a chance to work on, the repertoire that you need to do auditions. But yeah, and then, so that preparation I could have used more, but, I was pretty broke back then too. I left school and had my degrees and really didn't have money to fly off and do auditions and stay in hotels and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
mm.
But it didn't doesn't sound like, financially you were that concerned about music not being that lucrative of a profession because you really enjoyed it.
Yes, I mean, at some point, I remember in undergrad school as a freshman, I think, sitting in a big, kind of a welcome and convocation. Here we are, and one of the professors saying, "Look, this is if you're really somebody who wants to make a lot of money, this is probably not the career for you." It wasn't quite, maybe not quite, but put that way, but and I remember thinking, "Well, I'm not too worried about that." And knowing that you could make a living as a teacher, at least in public school, and, I'm not even sure I was thinking about teaching in a college at that point, but I knew at least I could probably make a living as a music educator and try and do my performing on top of that, not realizing how much you really needed to get dedicate your activities to putting your sights on that kind of job and learning what it took to do it and how you go about it and keep training and keep trying. So I was just very, very lucky that once, Dallas Wind started and I had done some freelancing around here, with groups, but when Dallas Wind started, that was kind of a lifeline to keep going, in a lot of ways. And then the other jobs came after that. So, I was just very, very fortunate for my timing and not giving up on Dallas Winds even when it was not paying. And so, a lot of us took that attitude, so that's why we're still here. So,
And so that sense of community was huge, it sounds like.
yeah, those of us, do you mean for Dallas Winds for
Yeah, I mean, it
the
sounds like that sense of community really helped you stay with it.
Yes, it was as our former, uh, executive director, Kim Campbell, founded the group and, along with Howard Dunn, and we used to call it a labor of love,
Mhm,
and it was. We would go in and we would not get our music generally until you showed up to the first rehearsal,
mhm.
and it could be a Meslanka,
Yeah,
a David Meslanka, Child's Garden of Dreams, or, um it could be, the 𝐓𝐸Ⅎ Sinfonietta. It was big repertoire and a lot, and we would have, I think, 4 rehearsals, but you were pretty much sight reading when you came in and sat down, and then the concert was a couple days later, and this is for no pay. You just wanted to do it, and, Kim as he likes to say it, he would call a lot of his professors and, very high performing and really well respected, people in the community. John Scott, 𝐓𝐸
Oh,
𝐓𝐸. I don't think Paul Garner was one of the very first members, but Paul came too. But there were a lot of people that Kim called and said, "Well, we're gonna do this band and so and so's gonna play." And he would call so and so and say, "Hey, these guys are gonna play. So are you in?" And they did. And so, yeah, and and a lot of people put a lot of time in for us at their expense of layering that on top of the other things, but we kept going and started doing our first recordings, and the reputation of the band grew, and, so we've eventually were able to start being paid, and now when the Meyerson Symphony Center was built in the early '90s, we will and still are performing there. It's the Dallas Symphony's home, they helped build it, and then the rest of the community organizations like ours can rent, and share the space. So we still perform there. So that's when we started more of a really proper subscription program. And we'd already recorded, but we did 2 of our recordings with Frederick Fennell there to start with him. He Hang on, I've gotta do another prop for you.
yeah.
So he is over my shoulder. The phone.
Love that.
Thank you. This was a program where we did the Firebird Suite of his arrangement. It was all in manuscript and
Wow.
big, big program.
Wow.
He was our principal guest conductor for many years before he passed. So we got Frederick Fennell involved, and then our early days, we used to do a program that was Marches in March, and we would have every military band director of that time come in and direct a piece or 2 for us. So we started getting more people outside of Dallas to become aware of us. Again, our recordings really helped us, become a more known outside of Dallas. And so yeah, it's just very fortunate to have it grow. We are now, I think it's 23 compact discs in. So some with John Mackey, some with Frank DeKelly, um, just David Maslanka. So all kinds of wind band repertoire and some, lighter things like our holiday albums and stuff like that too. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's really, really cool. Yeah, Frederick Fennell conducted Interlochen when I was a high school student.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
he used to come in with his towel wrapped around his neck.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get to work with him until Dallas Winds, and of course certainly knew of him. And, when I was saying before that before Dallas Winds, there was only one other group, and I don't know if they were ever professional, but the Cleveland Symphonic Winds.
Mhm.
I know I have their recordings. They did record, and they were really inspirational. And that was like, ooh, we all want to do that. And just, and around this area, Lisa, the part of the reason that we can work and do what we do is there are a couple large music schools, several very, very wonderful music schools, UNT and SMU and TCU, UT Arlington, all in this very small, area, relatively small. So you have a lot of students, but you also have band programs here, and this is a Texas thing. I d I didn't have this growing up in New York. In New York, we got a weekly sort of a sectional lesson. You got to rotate out of a class, it was on a rotating schedule that you were excused from another class like English or social studies to go and have a lesson with your band director. And it was a group lesson. So we did that. And coming down here, well, my first job down here was teaching private students, going into the public schools, and you teach private lessons in the school adjunct to the music program.
Mhm.
Depends on the school district that you're with, how they operate it, but it's reasonably well paying, and you can line up a lot of students every week and teach their junior highs that feed into their high schools. and have quite a few students. My first year was over in Irving ISD, and I had at one point, I think, 75 students a week.
Oh my god. Now, were those students paying you in privately, or was the school paying?
They go through the school,
I see.
and it depends. Well, they may have paid me directly, and then later, some of the ISDs start, and some, I think a lot of them still do, retain what they call a scholarship, a small amount of your pay, and they put that towards scholarship money. Other schools have a process where um, uh, um, you have to go through their program of onboarding and being a select educator, and they all have a different system. So I've been out away from that. I do some teaching in public schools, but it's for classes, so I'm paid a different way than that.
Yeah, I've always heard in Texas, at least historically, that people could have 100 students. Like, yeah, or 7,500, like lots of students. That's a lot of
Yeah.
students. That's a lot.
Yes, you could do. As a wind player, I do have a private studio at home, small studio at home. And in my area, because there are so many good schools and there are so many good teachers going to the schools, I don't have as many that, are always calling me, but I will get them. Um, so a lot of families will elect to do it through school because their kids are also really booked up with their other activities, and
Right.
it's convenient for them to have their lessons at school. And so yeah, but that program has allowed this community to have almost every one of our surrounding suburbs has a symphony orchestra, and a good one too. So, Plano has a symphony that is lovely. Um, Richardson Symphony, and so you have all of these regional orchestras in the area that are very fine too, and in part because there is that large number of musicians in this area.
Mhm. That's great.
Yeah, yeah,
That's really fantastic. It's great that you have been able to find a pathway as a freelancer
yeah,
in doing band music. I mean, to be able to do that and to play gigs, but still to have that be a core is really impressive because
yeah.
we could use more of that around the country and in other places.
And I will say though, in the time that Dallas Wins has started up, and again after we started, our discs started being they were always marketed all over the world, but as people started becoming more aware of us and throughout the US too, other ensembles have started up as a result of us starting up, and, just getting inspiration for that. Some still may be more of a community ensemble, but there are some, if they're not fully professional, they're having a concert series like we are. And, so yeah, so it's kinda cool to know that, in my background and sticking with Dallas Winds and trying to help it grow, that you've had a little bit of input to that development, so
Yeah, and it's the band thing though is interesting because I just actually today had a podcast with a clarinetist from Spain who studied in Valencia, and Valencia has a huge amount of band programs and has a culture of that. And it's interesting. What do you think stimulates that? Like, what do you think makes that work? Is it because I don't know, like, why is there not more of a band culture in Illinois? Like, it doesn't have the same kind of stickiness.
it doesn't, and you probably have hundreds of community, bands,
Mhm.
but I guess it's because the tradition of that orchestra and being seen as the more, I don't know a good word. Elite is not a good word. But the repertoire, and back in the day, there was when you and I were coming up in school. Yes, there were the whole suites, and there were the Persichetti pieces, and there were the, really standard band literature.
Mhm.
Uh, and since then, I mentioned before Frank Kelly and John Mackey
Mhm.
and Stephen Bryant. and Eric Whitaker, and all of these other 𝐓𝐸𝐾 𝐽, people that are being commissioned to write these pieces as the community has grown stronger in this state, but also college band directors will come together and make these commissions from all kinds of composers, and the composers now have become aware of what a wind band can do,
Mhm.
and some just really didn't understand the uniqueness of it, of the sound and the power that you can have with a wind band, and the agility that you can have, and the colors, that you got a contrabass clarinet, and maybe you could even pull in some of those other unique instruments, but you have all these colors, and again, the facility of them, and so that they have another color palette to work with, and so they can write symphonies for these, and they do. And we've recorded to Kelly's Symphony Number 2. We've done oh gee, uh, concertos with John Mackey for a number of instruments. We had Joel Alessi come in and be one of our concerto soloists,
Mhm.
trombone, and they're remarkable pieces. Antique Violence is a trumpet concerto that's brilliant, and yeah, so there's so much more repertoire now too. So and but it's still a challenge, even as far along as Dallas Winds is. It's still a challenge for us to keep pe- people people's awareness of the level of musicianship and the fun that we have at our concerts. And we're a nonprofit just like all of the other performing arts organizations, so you're building your budget every year and you're trying to maintain your ticket holders and getting new people in and trying to keep your seats filled in order to help ourselves pay the way. So and it's still, I'll be honest, it's still a struggle because we still keep getting confused. We changed our name years ago. It was the Dallas Wind Symphony
Mhm.
was our original name, and then, I don't know, 10 years maybe, we became the Dallas Winds and dropped symphony because we keep getting confused with Dallas Symphony now, and people don't understand, "Well, I went to look for your concert, but I didn't see it on the Dallas Symphony website." I was like, "Well, because we're not them."
Right.
We're a wonderful wind ensemble. We're not an orchestra, and we don't have strings except for double bass and harp, and, you know, so yeah, it's still that educational thing. People think of band, they think of marching band. If
Mhm.
an average person, not necessarily people that have gone up through, and learned an instrument.
Mhm.
It's your average person that's looking at what concerts could I go to, or I wanna broaden my horizons, and they see Dallas Symphony, and they see that that's their home, and, we're only there once a month, so it's still a struggle to be known, really well known even in our community. And
How many members are in the ensemble roughly?
uh it was 52 for a long time. We may be up a little to slightly under 60. I have to
Mhm.
count that up to be sure, but yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And was it always that size back when you started, or has it grown?
No, that's a great question. When Howard started the group and Kim Campbell, we were only 6 clarinets.
Yeah.
It was a true wind ensemble. So our first 2 recordings, maybe more, um, actually, I think it was all the way up until our current director is Jerry Junkin. He's the director of bands at UT, Austin,
Mhm.
and brilliant conductor and musician. But Jerry added on to the clarinets, so we have 9, and of course the utility clarinets. And I think we've just expanded our trombones to one more. So a few more positions, but still, I guess around 60-ish is our core. And then, of course, if we have a spectacular piece like Circus Maximus, the John Corleano, brilliant piece, and it has a marching band in addition to the band on stage, and antiphonal, woodwind, woodwind ensembles and soloists around the auditorium.
Wow.
So
When did you perform that? That sounds awesome.
we actually did that here in Dallas once, and then we took it to the Midwest Clinic,
Wow.
and that was the first year that that piece existed. So we did it at the clinic, and yeah,
That's fantastic.
yeah, it's
What,
an
what,
amazing piece. If you ever get to hear it, it's intense.
yeah.
But it's an amazing experience.
Are there any YouTube recordings of it with Dallas Winds?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll go look.
That's worth a look. I really don't know.
It sounds like both a visual spectacular and an auditory one.
Yes, yes, and I won't give away, I won't give away some of the cool parts.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get a big surprise.
Well, Sharon, if somebody was listening to this podcast and was just amazed by your story and really interested in what it means to be a musician, what would you tell them to get them to try to play a wind instrument right now?
Go listen to, whether it's band or orchestra. Of course, I'm a wind player, so go hear your bands in addition to orchestra. When you're playing in each group, and I love playing with both groups, but they're different kinds of experiences. The repertoire can be the same, but it'll be slightly different in each one depending on the arrangement for band. So go experience it and see what instruments kind of call out to you. And don't, even if you're 80, you can start an instrument. And I have started 80-year-olds. I have, started younger ones as well, but don't be afraid of that. If you put your instrument in the closet and you haven't looked at it for, you know, a long, long, long time, you get that instrument out and just see what it takes to refurbish it. I think actually, Lisa, one of my friends from high school
Right.
is going to reach out to you if he hasn't already to get help because he really wants to just pick up his clarinet where he left off and try and learn it again.
Awesome.
And his day job is not music at all, but really wants to become, involved with it again, even if it's just for playing, at his home. Um, but yeah, you can start learning and you have to just be very, very, very patient. And you can eventually, if you can build up your skills, if you have played in the past and you went through high school and you can get your instrument put back together in a good form, and as much as here's your pro tip, as much as you love your old instruments, if they're not in great enough shape to refurbish, just love that instrument, put it there and know that it's there and it's going to, it'll be your inspiration, but find something that will not be in the way of you learning and ask professionals like Lisa or me to help you. And then try to get help. If you can't easily pick it up and remember, you have people in your community. My school is a 2-year school and anybody can come and do lessons. You don't have to be, we have music majors, but that are going to go on for transfer. But we are not, we do have community level 2 where it's a non-credit class. So you can do that experience with some very fine professionals if you want to seek that out in there, but in your local schools. You can also find private teachers, and that will help you. They'll guide you as to what, and it might be if it's not through school, then look at the local music shops, and they likely will have people to recommend to you. And find that connection and just get started and keep asking questions and trying. And, if you are just want to play, you might find a community ensemble like a community band or orchestra. Your church is another great place for a lot of people to just kind of keep playing and contribute to their congregation. Um, and you might find other organizations, your community bands and orchestras again, and you never know.
Without a doubt, seek them out. People are very friendly in music and people are always
Yes,
willing
they
to
are.
help.
Yes, they are. So,
Nope, without a doubt. Thank you so much for joining us, Sharon.
You're welcome so much.